Hello, my name is Miguel Varella-Cid. I'm 52 years old and I have been living in Japan since 1998 as a self-employed businessman. I wanted to make this video today because I really felt empathy for Anna Brees and her channel and how hard she must be working and what toll it's taking on her. And I thought, we each have to do whatever we can to share her work, but also, if we can, to contribute. And I feel I am somebody who can contribute something. Since 2001, I've taken a keen interest in world politics, or in other words, geopolitics, and what is happening financially on a global scale. Although that's not a foolproof way of knowing what's going to happen or who is behind whatever is happening, it does bring us closer, or certainly I believe that for myself, to knowing what the truth is so that I can steer myself and my businesses in directions which are effective. When coronavirus came along, of course, like everybody else, I believed it at first. I thought, wow, this has never happened before. And I was afraid. I have a mentor, a very, very wise man. And Mark told me what he thought, and he thought that it was a lie. Anyway, I bought chloroquine from China, and I bought testing kits, and I thought, well, at least I have myself protected, because I do believe that chloroquine could work. And then I started to research, as I usually do. I usually read every day, and I started to look at where the money had been invested and by what entities. I discovered that the World Economic Forum, which is comprised of CEOs controlling companies worth in excess of $5 billion US, so in other words, pharmaceutical companies and the like, tech companies as well, and world leaders. I looked at the World Economic Forum and I realized that there had been event 201 in October, November of last year in New York City, where they did a simulation of a coronavirus pandemic killing 65 million people worldwide. And the name of the coronavirus was called COV2. And I thought, well, that's a bit odd that they thought that. They did a simulation of this, of how governments would react, how businesses would react, what businesses would be affected, what would happen to airlines, all that sort of stuff that has now transpired. They simulated it at the end of last year. And I looked at, okay, what other entities were involved here? Well, the WHO was there. Okay. Who funds the WHO? Oh, the US was number one for the last 5 years, but behind the US, immediately next on the list of donors in order of amount invested every year was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I thought, well, that's a bit odd. Okay. And then the Johns Hopkins University was there. Anthony Fauci was there. And ID 2020 was there. What's ID 2020? And I have heard for years and years that world governments would like to have digital IDs, and I always thought of it as conspiracy theory. But then I see ID 2020 are there. Okay, who funds ID 2020? Oh, wow, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation comes up again. Now, this is not conspiracy theory. This is all stuff that you can find by looking at the ID 2020 website, at the WHO funding. You can just look it up on Google and you'll find it. And the Johns Hopkins University, why were they there, and why are they now so prominent in the news as supposedly being people who are giving us the numbers of the people who have died? And anyway, the CDC and people like that were there too. So when I saw that, my conclusion was, okay, this is not really about a coronavirus pandemic, which is only likely to kill 0.6% of people who actually catch it, who are people with pre-existing conditions and people who are very old. In other words, people who have a very deficient immune system. Why? Why is there this vast overreaction? I realize that if we lock down first world countries, we're going to have massive economic collapse as a result. And we saw 1 in 3 people becoming unemployed in the US during lockdowns. We saw all airlines basically stop flying, and we understand that they're going to go into ownership by governments and entities that invest in those companies at times like this. This is what financial crashes do. It's a confiscation of wealth every time. A financial crash is never something that happens naturally. It's something that's caused one way or another, often by central banks, which are in themselves cartels. They're not government owned. I realized this wasn't really about a coronavirus pandemic. My business was very heavily affected because I didn't go and look at the World Economic Forum before it happened at the end of last year, although I knew there was a financial crash that started at the end of last year, and that the coronavirus pandemic would be a very good scapegoat to give us a reason for a financial crash that will sooner or later hit us, especially now that European countries and other countries are considering total lockdowns. Watching Dr. Mike Yielding's video this morning, I thought it was a very, very good video. He's obviously a foremost expert in his field. He has a PhD. He's obviously a person who doesn't have vested interests in, telling what I believe is the truth, what he spoke in his video with Anna Brees. So he's somebody that whose opinion I would trust. And his opinion is in vast contrast with the official narrative coming out of the mainstream media. So, there's a discrepancy there, a vast discrepancy, and it's something that I've been seeing develop on a large scale. And I've tried to share it with many people, and some of my friends have disagreed with me. Some of my friends are vehemently about, wear your mask and otherwise you'll kill other people and so on. Okay, I realize they're victims of not knowing the truth, and we shouldn't be divided by a difference of opinion. Those of us who are aware and those of us who have empathy for humanity and a care for this world need to be beacons of truth. We shouldn't care about what other people think about us. In fact, people will think much better of us because the truth always comes out in the end. It's just whether or not it comes out early enough or too late. Right now, civil liberties are being taken away.